like to welcome you all to the Public Library Action Network's membership meeting. Thank you so much. And some of you who have come from afar, I have come from afar. Be better, I guess. But we appreciate your attendance and you know, celebrate your successes along with you and are here to help if you need these. That is what we're doing for. So, given that, I can introduce board members or ask them to introduce themselves. Board members, before you introduce yourself, give one positive thing that happened to you. My boss is doing this, so. Who's starting?
Here from Ashley Bird.
Oh,
Ashley wants to welcome us to the library. She is the adult services librarian here, and she has been extraordinarily instrumental in helping us give you a good production today, and she's been incredibly helpful as an extra body and mind for assistance with a few bodies to help get us organized. And we're so thankful to have her. We did a great job in assigning her to this particular task.
Thank you. Thank you. So, of course, I have to start off. And thank you. And welcome to the Larry J. Ringer Library, a branch of the Bryan College Station Public Library System. My name is Ashley Reed. I'm an adult reference librarian at this branch for a little over 6 years. In the absence of my branch manager, Derek Bailey, and our library system director, B. Sava, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the library and to College Station, the heart of Aggieland and the home of Texas A&M University. Oh, for a little housekeeping, the bathrooms are straight across in the foyer. If you need to exit the building, we have doors on the left or doors on the right that take you directly outside. Just be careful, there's a step down. And I will be here to give a tour at the end when that time comes today. So have a wonderful meeting. If you have any questions or assistance, just don't hesitate to ask me or Stephen, our IT wonderful man. Thank you.
okay. I still want the board to take a moment to introduce yourselves, pretend like you don't know any of these people in this room, and to tell us about one great thing that's happened at the library or your work recently.
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
So I'm Gretchen Pruitt. I am the immediate past director of the Waffles Public Library, retired officially as of October 1st. So, I wanted to do two positive things. Because, one positive thing is being retired. The Muslim comes out, and most of you know what I'm talking about. So I'm really looking forward to being able to advocate for libraries completely and fully, and just let me know that if there's anything I can do for you, please reach out, let me know. I'm happy to show up at city council meetings and speak truth to power. So that's a really positive thing. The other really positive thing I want to share with you is there's a podcast called Libraries Lead, and Dr. Meinke, who's now at UT High School, is 1/3 of the group that puts that podcast on. It's a great podcast, but he just dropped a special issue. The candidate, the Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor in Utah, is a librarian. And her story is amazing. And so if you don't listen to anything else, there's a special segment on that Libraries Lead podcast where Dr. Meinke interviews her, and she is amazing. It will lift you up. I listened to it yesterday. I wanted to listen to it again this morning, but I got distracted. But it will give you lots of good feels. So please find that Libraries Lead podcast and the special edition with Rebecca Cummings, who's a librarian in public office. Hopefully soon. Yeah.
Makes me want to move to Utah so I can vote.
That's what there was a conversation about that. What was the lead time?
How long did you have to be there before?
I got the residence requirement. Remember? We all. Anyway, my name is Dorothy Stillman. I'm the library director for the city of Pleasanton. And what great thing that happened this week was that I was contacted by Region 2, which we were formerly part of Region 20, but Region 2 for Addis County to be added to their region who they serve because they want to do GED prep classes in the library. And trying to get that in Region 20 was could never get that to work out. And then I was told to back off. Well, this week they contacted me. They came and saw the library, and they've already posted a job opening for a teacher. And that was within 24 hours. So that is a great thing. We all know we need it, even though we like to put our head in the sand and say that we don't. We all know we need one. So that is a great thing to have.
The great thing that happened to me this week is that Parks and Rec actually came to meet with us and coordinate programming. This has been a forever. So yeah, there's a lot of territorialism and yes. In between the city departments, and that's unfortunate. There's only so much I can do about that. But to get the Parks Department, whose leadership is a bit reluctant to do anything with anybody else, got their people in the same room with my people, and they realized that we didn't need to overlap everybody's programming, and that we would share, and try to separate out time so that each institution would have their own programming and attendance, and it might be a little bit different at the other institution. So that went pretty well, but it was long. That's my thing. Now I'm the library director for Taylor Public Library. I've worked in libraries for 40 years, just way too long. But I've worked in Meraz County. I've worked in Victoria, and now I'm in. I worked in Garland, and now I'm here in Taylor, which is a booming town. Yes, Samsung is there. They throw money at us. Friends of the Library got $500 bill. I'm happy with that.
That's it.
Samsung.
My name is Wendy. I'm the director for the English Public Library. That's over by corporates, if anybody knows what corporates is. I had a lot of little things happen in my library just in 1 week. We too, rather than disband our ESLGD classes or adult literacy, we actually got a new director, executive director, because the need is there. So we were able to keep it going. And I'm proud of that because if any of y'all know Rosalita, bless her heart, she just passed, but she wasn't one of the founders, but she was one of the, I guess, promoters for our adult literacy in our county. She, her and other librarians were the first creators of the adult literacy. So that was, and I get to tag, I'm no longer going to do the strips. We get to actually do little square tags. So I'm excited I got that delivered this week. So I'm excited about that.
And Michelle, I know you're holding out there, but you're part of the board, so you're not on the board anymore. I just like to know that. What would you like to do, Louanne?
You're still on the board.
Once or twice on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. She was still.
All right, so what we,
Karen.
yes, ma'am, go for it. Staffing.
Want to introduce our board members that can't be present today.
Okay. And I don't remember.
Okay. We recently the person who took Michelle's place was John Hayden, and we're very glad to have him. He's over in Green County, just between Dallas and East Texas folks over there. So it's a really good region for us to be supporting and trying to expand services there. We also do B is not here today. B Saba is, our vice chair, and she's extraordinary. And then we also have, who else is not here? Becky Isbell is not here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Becky Isbell is here virtually with us, and Becky is at Brownsville. Then we have Denise Milton. Oh, we dated. You remember where Denise is? Jasper, Texas. You're right. Thank you so much. And then we have Kelly, and Kelly, pronounce her last name so I don't really butcher it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Kelly Scobier is recently retired as well. And where's she from? From Berkeley. From Berkeley, yes. And then we have Jill and, Jill's last name,
Donovan.
Jill Donica, and she is from San Angelo. So quite a number of good people running young and very small libraries throughout the state. Some of them are, like Michelle is relatively suburbia. Gretchen just got off, she's relatively suburban. We have Jill, she's relatively suburban as well. And I would say that John Hayden is relative suburbia as well. It's in East Texas, it kind of has a rural spread out feel, kind of like College Station, but it's very similar in landscape and mentality. And then we have some very good small nonprofit, small people who exist about the same way that we do in our nonprofit status, with these very, very small, nimble staffs that are tasked to do many, many things. And they do they get the very best service and the very best products that they can with what they have. And it requires so much more education and so much more foundation than people are really aware of. You have to have much more of a wide, expansive skill set that goes unnoticed. You don't have other people with other skills from other departments to rely on. It is a very, very self-initiative lifestyle that these people lead, and they should be much, much, much more commended than they are for their efforts. And so I truly want to acknowledge that point today, not just for their service commitment, but for an intellectual commitment that just does not get entertained and valued as much as it really should be. What I'm going to do next, I want to call Wendy Woodland here. Wendy is she is our TLA Association Director of Advocacy and Communications. And I think Wendy wants to talk to us about legislative activities today, and maybe inform us where we are in terms of continuing our own advocacy education and style. Okay.
How do I advance or do I just need to
Let's do this.
how do we this clicker? Yeah, we have a clicker.
Yeah, well, help them over here.
Yeah, we could just let them know.
Yeah.
Oh, I just let you know.
Yeah, just tell someone they're ready to go next.
Okay. You don't want to use the clicker?
No.
Okay, I'm good with that.
We try.
I'm good with that.
So we get situated. Seven one right here. Because it never fails when I talk, I'll have some sort of coughing fit, so I don't know what I'm about. Thank y'all for having me here today. I'm happy to share some information on the legislative session and TLA's advocacy work. I'm going to
quickly, this is kind of an overview of about what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the interim, what's been going on during this time, what we're looking forward to for the 89th Texas legislature that convenes in January, and then what TLA's advocacy work is looking like. I'm going to leave time for questions at the end. So just kind of make a note if you have any questions that come up as I'm going through, because I want to make sure I stay on time. So during the interim is the time between regular legislative sessions. But this interim really wasn't much of an interim at all because the governor called 4 special sessions right after the end of the regular session in May of 2023. So essentially legislators were in session until December. Obviously with some breaks, but they were pretty much in session until December. And then most of their attention turned to the primary elections, which are in the spring of 24, because all members of the House are up for re-election and also half of the Senate. So that has been what has been occupying our elected officials' minds for the most of the interim. The Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor did issue their interim charges to the committees in the late spring of 24. The Speaker, their interim charges did not include anything specific to libraries. It didn't mention HB 900. On the Senate side, the charge to the Education Committee was to monitor implementation of HB 900. The Senate Education Committee held a hearing on September 18th on all of their charges. I think there was 5 or 6, and they had invited testimony for each one of those charges, and then they took public testimony at the end. The invited testimony on implementation of HB 900 was Gloria from the State Library, a representative from the Attorney General's office who is involved with the HB 900 lawsuit, and then a representative from Texas Values, which is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to preserve and advance a culture of family values in Texas. And I think Louanne can share this presentation with y'all. I'll have links to the charges and to the recording of the hearing if you guys are interested in listening to that. It went really well. Gloria, of course, did an amazing job. The Attorney General's representative and the Texas Values representative shared information as expected about still concern about parental rights and still concern about content in school libraries, how we can tighten it even more and really address those concerns. Senator Angela Paxton kind of took the lead in providing questions and asking questions of the panelists. And her focus remains on the bill that she filed last session, which would set up parental advisory committees at districts that would be charged with approving purchases of books. So it wasn't anything that we didn't expect, and it wasn't anything that we hadn't heard before. It was, which is actually good. So it was a good hearing, and like I said, Gloria did an amazing job. So the 89th legislature convenes on January 14th, but they can start filing bills November 11th. So a little over a week after elections, they can start filing bills. So we will start monitoring then and seeing what is being filed. Again, they'll convene in January. The deadline to file bills is March 14th. And so it's that, what is that, like 6 months, I guess, well, from November to March is when we'll be looking at all the new bills coming in. There'll be a huge clump that come in November as folks get elected and they want to get on the news and they want to, do all the things. And then there'll still be others that come as the session progresses. And for example, HB 900 wasn't filed last year until maybe a couple of weeks before the bill filing deadline in March. So we are likely, again, as I mentioned, to see a version of SB 13.
there will be some sort of updates to 900. We don't know exactly what those are going to look like at this time. And we will see more bills to repeal the affirmative defense language from the penal code. That was also mentioned in the hearing, that as it's been characterized by some, this loophole, which says that if materials have educational, scientific, governmental, and other value, then they are not harmful to minors. But that's an affirmative defense against harmful to minors charge. So we will see more of those. So something to keep in mind, though, about the session that I always like to remind folks is last session, there were over 8,000 bills filed, but only 15%, a little over 1,200 passed. So just because it's filed doesn't mean it's a given that it's going to happen. And of course, that doesn't mean we ignore it or that we don't work on it. But it can be, if it's like last session where all of a sudden there was almost 40 bills aimed at libraries and they were all over the place, it can be a little overwhelming and create a little sense of anxiety. So just take a breath and remember that we'll all get through it, and that only one of the library bills passed last session. So we go ahead to the next slide. So that gets us to advocacy and the importance of advocacy. So this graphic is an illustration of the ecosystem, the library ecosystem, which was developed by ALA. And they define it as an interconnected network of all types of libraries, library workers, volunteers, associations that provide and facilitate library services for community members, families, K-12, college and universities, local, state, federal legislatures, and all of these organizations with specific information needs. And basically what they're saying is that if all of these library types come together with sort of one voice and one common objective as much as possible, that we have stronger impact in the areas that we want to have impact. And so as we've learned over the past couple of years, it takes all of us to counter the negative narratives about libraries and to address the challenges that we're all facing around the state. And TLA is really fortunate that all library types are part of our membership, and we've been able to leverage that to our advantage quite a bit, especially as we have worked in local areas facing challenges where perhaps a school librarian can't speak up at a school board meeting, but an academic librarian can. And we have, we're able to get those messages out to all types of libraries, and it's been really critical and important in our advocacy work. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about some of our training and resources that we were working with. So we had our legislative advocacy, legislative priorities planning retreat in mid-September. Members of the legislative committee and the TLA president and president-elect got together for a 2-day retreat that was facilitated by Eddie Smith of the Adelaide Library Consortium. Gloria was there in the morning of the first day, as were Marty De Leon and Jay Nicchio, who are government affairs consultants. They shared sort of where the agency is, where the legislature is, what we can expect, kind of to provide that sort of framework of what the environment, the legislative and regulatory environment in Texas might be looking like when we get to session. The group then went through TLA's mission, visions, goals to kind of, because that is what guides all of our advocacy work, is our organization's broader mission, vision, and goals. And then we've looked at what our current legislative priorities had been, which were set up in 2019. So obviously a lot has changed since 2019. They were access, education, and economic development. And so we just brainstormed legislative goals and priorities, and how did we want to work with libraries, and how, like, what will guide our decisions as an organization when we're looking at a piece of legislation to decide if it's something that we're going to be for, against, neutral, or are we going to, or is it not something that's necessarily a library thing that we can expend resources on. So the legislative priorities are actually, they are on our website. So again, you can go to see this. They're basically focusing around leading a learning culture. I can't We just did them, so I don't have them memorized yet. But it's still related to access and leadership and partnership and the roles that libraries can play in a wide range of areas. And so I think there'll be a really good guiding plan for us. The executive board will approve them at their October meeting, so there's a chance there could be tweaks to them, but I think they're pretty much set. So we've also hosted legislative advocacy virtual discussion series. It's been a series of 3 webinars, well, not really webinars, online discussions designed to help build our members' capacity as advocates. We really wanted to find a way for all of our members and librarians to learn from each other. You have some folks who are very experienced advocates, some who've never done it but want to, and how can we share that information and that experience? So the first session we had on September 11th, it talked about communicating the value of your library. Folks came together, we put them off into breakout rooms on Zoom. Each breakout room has a facilitator, have 4 or 5 questions. I think some of y'all were part of that one. And just have a discussion. You know, what do you need to know? How TLA can help? And I think it went really well for the first one. We got a lot of good feedback. We have another one October 23rd talking about understanding the impact of legislation on libraries. And then our final one will be responding to a call to action. And then we're also hosting a legislative advocacy training at the Capitol next week on Thursday. So if anybody wants to come, registration closes on Monday. That is going to be it's going to be a hands-on workshop to help members gain confidence in connecting with their elected officials. We're going to have Senator Jose Menendez is going to be our keynote, and then we're going to have a panel of a staffer and a couple of library advocates talking about how the legislative staff offices work, how you know who to call, all of that. And then we'll do a little activity, and then folks are going to go out and drop by their member's office to just do a little leave behind a little thing and offer to be a resource for them in the future. So I think it'll be really good. So I'm looking forward to that. Next. Oh, and then we'll have monthly legislative session updates. I'll see those. So one of the things that TLA took on this summer, we really wanted to find a way to counter the negative narrative. You know, every news article, it seems like, about a library is about a book challenge or something. And so we were like, libraries do a lot more than daily book challenges. So how can we help kind of get that message out a little bit? So we contracted with ECPR, which is an Austin-based public relations firm. They also helped us with Texans for the Right to Read, to do this public awareness campaign. So we produced a 2-minute video that interviewed a diverse mix of library patrons to highlight the services libraries provide and the value that they bring to their communities. So we have the video, then we also have 5 little short cut downs of 30 to 60 seconds. You've probably seen them all over social media. We've been really pushing them out over the summer. I think it's really great that it includes a call to action to sign a petition in support of libraries. So I left these cards back there on that table. So y'all feel free to grab one, share with your friends and family, share far and wide. So far, we've got about 1,850 people have signed the petition, and we really want to grow that number. But since this campaign went live, the social media posts have had more than 1.1 million impressions and more than 4,000 clicks. So we are reaching people. We're targeting not only the major metro media markets, but the Abilene, Corpus, East Texas, Victoria areas. We're targeting some of the smaller markets as well. So we're seeing some great traction with this, and we're really excited about it. So if you guys have seen it, if you haven't, you can watch it, or you can scan the QR code on the back of the little postcard that's there too. Okay, next slide. And so we also still have our Texans for the Right to Read coalition. It has about 3,593 members right now, and we're still growing that as well. This was a coalition a grassroots coalition that we set up in the spring of 22 to provide a way for non-librarians to stay informed on the issues and to raise their voice and share their concerns about censorship in their local communities. Since we've launched, we have activated probably 20, 30 more times in local areas around the state, reaching out to Texans for the Right to Read members, encouraging them, providing them talking points and resources when there's something happening in their community. And I think it has been successful. We have seen, even in the cases where the bad policies move forward and were approved, we have still seen engagement from those community members, and they've appeared in media stories, and so it's been really good. And I brought bookmarks that are on that. So again, keep helping us spread the word about the coalition. It's great to have voices speak up in favor of libraries and supporting libraries that are not librarians. And I think it's really essential. And we have seen over, in addition to Texans for the Right to Read, a lot of parent groups have come up. A lot of advocacy groups in particular areas have come up. So we have seen a lot of growth in that area. And while I wouldn't say we have a formal coalition system or structure around all of those, we all do communicate and talk. And so it's really a very, very strong kind of behind the scenes with different groups speaking up where it makes sense for them to speak and where they'll have the most impact. So that's all I had. If you have any questions, and I'd be remiss if I don't do a TLA pitch that membership is open and the conference registration is open, and we'll see you all in Dallas. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't have a question, Wendy, as much as I wanted to make sure, because I think it's important that you know, those advocacy sessions, the online sessions, they are not recorded. And we presented a topic and then broke into smaller groups and had some pretty great discussions, pretty frank and open. And so it's a safe place for you all to come with your concerns and ask questions. And the group mind is always better, but that was something that I think a lot of folks were maybe reluctant to attend because of this current climate, but it is not recorded. So it is a perfectly safe place. So I would encourage you. It's free, and it's an hour that will pay you back and make a great dividend. So I encourage you to be a part of that.
Thanks. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks again for having me, and I look forward to working with y'all during the session. You'll be hearing from me way more than you ever wanted to, but I appreciate all of your hard work, and thanks for having me again.
Thank you, Wendy. We appreciate you. At this time, I want to introduce our wonderful state librarian, Gloria Meraz. We are very happy to have you today.
Well, good morning, everybody, and I'm just delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's always coming home to me to get a chance to visit with you all. I'm a talker, so I will so anybody feel free to throw a shoe at me when it's time to come off. I'm serious about that. Oh, thank you, Wendy. And as if you think of questions for Wendy while I'm talking, she can address it to you after I do. But it's a great time to have a lot of ideas coming forward. And as you're thinking about issues in libraries and celebrating all the great things that you're doing, thinking about all of the issues that we're dealing with individually and collectively. Nothing is as bolstering as this being with colleagues. You feel stronger, feel not alone, and you can see your way through things because we're lifting each other up. So even though you have to brake because the car in front of you is braking, you get a little bit of leeway to see the mountain you're climbing and the horizon ahead. So be in celebration of all of those things together. So let me start by telling you a little bit about the State Library and Archives Commission and Gloria, the director there. And the State Library and Archives Commission has been around for a long time. And in my TLA days, I used to say it was TLA that got the State Library formed, which is actually true. Although the Texas has had a library function going back to the days of the Republic, the modern agency was founded in 1909. After about 10 years of work from the Texas Library Association and League of Women's Voters that were organized in 1901 for the purpose of establishing the state library, and check, we're here. So thanks TLA for that and for many, many other things. And the extraordinary work of that group led by Wendy Woodland with, in advocacy efforts and communication. There is no other state library association like TLA. They speak for all types of libraries and have done so valiantly for 100+ years. And they are a great convener of not only libraries, but the communities represented by you all in your libraries. So with great pride. So the state library has been around for a long time. We are charged with 4 primary areas of operation, and I'll talk a little bit about our library development and networking division, which is the outfit that you all are most familiar with. But we also have equal parts of work with records management throughout the state. We are the state agency that has responsibility for assisting state and local government with the management of their public records. So that translates into 2 areas of operation for us. So it's records management, state and local records management, and then there are 2 sort of subcomponents. The first is we have huge warehouses. We actually have several facilities. Currently, our largest facility outside of the Desabala building, which is our headquarters building right across from the Capitol, is a big warehouse on Shoal Creek Boulevard, which is about 2 miles north of downtown Austin. And we have capacity there for 383,000 cubic feet of state records. So this is in addition to the archives of the state. The archives, we are the custodians of the official archival historical documents, both in print and electronic format for the state, for the executive branch and the judicial branch. Aside from that, we also manage inactive records that are still owned by state agencies. So they still need to keep the stuff, but they're not using them, so they don't want to store them at pricey real estate in downtown Austin. So this is what this facility does. So we manage all of those records for them, we store them, we pull them for public information and request anything else that the agency needs. So don't believe paper's going away. Not anytime soon. But we have been over capacity at that state record center. And we also have another 60,000 cubic feet of record storage in South Austin at an annex facility. We are not a six. So one of the great initiatives is we're building a whole new record storage center, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's part of that operation of records management. It's just storage and a vast amount of digitization and imaging that we do for state agencies and local governments. Microfilm, very much alive and well because it is a secure medium, especially in a time of a lot of cyber hacking. So we've got a full-scale operation. The other half of that is we have a team of experts that work with state and local governments on retention schedules. These are the state, basically it's a state table requirements of how long you have to keep your records. So we have set the minimums, working in concert with the stakeholder group, whether it's local law enforcement, school districts, state agency records, we do it all. So that part of our operation works on those minimum retention schedules, but also consulting with state and local record managers on the management of electronic and print records. So that's one of our big buckets is state and local records management. I mentioned the archives. We also have a very robust archives program. And then in addition to all of the wonderful historic documents we have, including some of the founding documents of the state, we have a very large digitization program. Through our Texas Digital Archive, everyone across the world has access to, it's about 152 terabytes of digitized information, and it's growing daily. We expect to be at 250 terabytes within the next couple of years. And it is everything you can imagine. Our print collections that are being digitized, but also ingesting all of the electronic records that are archival. We have to figure out how to preserve those in perpetuity. So that's part of the system. We are also doing massive scanning for departments like the Texas Department of Transportation, which has started a historic project. We are scanning every blueprint, every item related to rights of way documentation for every highway in Texas in perpetuity. So if anybody's doing research on who owned what were the easements, what was it? It's all coming forward. So this is a multi-year project. All of that is coming into the Texas Digital Archive. So for any of you who have those kinds of questions, there's this full resource available, but it's also a great place to teach people about history and a primary resource. So the Archives of Texas, we also have exhibits, programs, and training, and all sorts of good stuff that happens through Archives. That's number 2. Number 3 of our 4 primary program areas is the Talking Book Program. We have been an affiliate of the Library of Congress since I think the 1930s, 37, I think is when the program started. And basically, we provide reading material to Texans who cannot hold a standard for print books. So whether if they need Braille, if they need large print, or audiobooks, whether it's in digital on demand, we have a quite and growing operation, and we run that through our Talking Book Program. The 4th is our library services and our library division, which is the program you're familiar with. That's constituted in 2 primary areas. One is our library resource sharing, which handles things like TechShare, interlibrary loan, our eRead Texas, and we've got lots of resources on that program. We also have our continuing education program, which does all of our CEC team, which does training and goes throughout the state. And sort of the core of all of that, of course, are a team that works with library accreditation and annual reports, with which you all are very familiar with. So that's the State Library and Archives Commission in terms of our program areas. We are governed by a 7-member commission, which is appointed by the governor and approved by the Senate. So we are very much an executive branch agency. I am the only employee that the commission hires, and then I do all of the rest of it. But the commission is a really engaged group. I invite you all to attend a commission meeting in person or in virtual. We do have them available online, just so you don't have to stay for the whole thing. You can just listen in to see how it operates. Our 7-member commission is led by Chair Martha Wong, who is a former principal and math teacher. She was on the Houston City Council for several years, former legislator, and a huge supporter of libraries. Our vice chair is Tocker, that I think is a name familiar to everyone. Arthur Mann, who has been on our commission for several years. He is recently retired along with his wife, Susan Mann, former director of the Hillsborough Public Library. So he gets educated a lot at home. And we also have Commissioner David Garza, who is from the Brownsville area, Commissioner David Iglesias from Tyler, Texas. Commissioner Brad Tegler, who is from Brenham, and Commissioner Nancy Pop from Fort Worth. All of these folks are very committed to history and preservation, and it's a very good commission. These are people who have some relation to the work of the agency and are very committed. They meet 5 times a year, and they do things like approve any of the rules that we want to put in our administrative code have to be approved by the commission, grant programs, and so on. So again, it's a very welcoming one. And so I invite you all to participate as you are able in these commission meetings and just listen in. So thank you for listening to this part. It's not always, you don't always want to know how something runs, but it's really important because this is your commission. I also wanted to talk a little bit about our current initiatives. We just submitted our budget, which is our legislative appropriations request. And that is, we submit that every 2 years in the fall before a session, and we have to ask for, our budget is built in two parts. We have what is called the base budget, which is please give us money for everything that we are already doing. And that's the base budget. It's just kind of continuing operations. And then anything new that we want, we have to ask for it as an exceptional item. And so we have to explain why we want those things. This session, we are going again for standard things, additional support for staff and training and some of those kinds of more infrastructure pieces for the agency itself. But we are also requesting about $5.5 million for broadband assistance. Well, it's under broadband readiness, but this is for our smallest public libraries. We are in receipt now of over $9 million for a broadband program for libraries, and I'm happy to report we've got the tech assessment company ready, and we expect those information about the grants to be deployed in early spring, if not late winter. But what we have found with the missing piece that we have identified is, especially for the smaller libraries, is there is no ready tech assistance, not anything on site or close to them. And this has been somewhat of a change when the systems went away many, many years ago. And so believe me, we hear that. And it's really interesting that the state is spending a lot of money on broadband development. That as an agency, we spend a lot on electronic resources. And all of this means that if you don't have the pipes and if you don't have a working computer, you're spending a lot of money for naught. And what we have found with the smaller public libraries, and we're looking at the 12,000 and below, is it's just a staffing issue. And perhaps not having even the capacity within the local jurisdiction to be able to go and get their support. So what we have done is come up with a bid to try to provide about 20 hours a month of sort of guaranteed support, or at least coverage for 12 to 20 computers at the library, so that there's someone to update the systems, to check if something's broken, all of those kinds of things. And we're building in some cybersecurity training for all of these libraries through the Department of Information Resources. There isn't any of us who doesn't constantly need this training because it's a changing world, but it's also to prepare, especially these smaller libraries, for future grant activities. I have not seen any new grant proposal or write-up or plan from the federal government that does not include some provision for cybersecurity training or policies. So we're trying to get ahead of it and build that training. So that's the piece that has sort of been missing. We do anticipate asking for additional funds from the Broadband Development Office in the U.S. Treasury for digital literacy. We just haven't got the contours of that program yet, but we have been in discussion with that partner about what that's going to look like. For the larger libraries, as we build our broadband program and as we build our digital literacy program, I think certainly there's a capacity for the smaller libraries, but for the larger libraries is how do we resource the larger libraries? Because you have a larger constituency. So what is our piece in being able to deploy on a broad scale digital literacy programming and funds for that kind of training? So this is the next piece of it. So we are looking at all of those funding opportunities. And as we're building our budget, I can only ask for things over the next 2 years. So it's difficult. While we have to think further down the road, we have to think about what it is that we can ingest. What can we actually put to use in 2 years? Because if we don't use it, we have to give it back. So we're trying to be very cautious about it, especially since I know that for the agency, our potential to get additional money for libraries is probably going to come from another source. So that's sort of how we're building our budget. And on that front, I do know that at the federal level, there's been a lot of discussion about facilities for libraries. Last summer, several months ago, we were informed the chief officers community, which is all the state library directors meet, and we were talking with the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the government budget office. This is kind of at the federal level, they do a lot of efficiency work. So they have been deploying a national survey on the needs for facilities for libraries. And when Texas, when I was asked about what we need, was like, well, we certainly need more money for new libraries, but what we really need is money to update existing structures. It's not just the new stuff, although yes, but really fundamentally is we have a lot of existing structure that has to be updated. We have not had money to even do meaningful electrical work and get into those roles and do all those kinds of things. We need to be able to plug things in. So that's a slow moving trend, but once that train gets moving, it will go forward. There had been some discussion about the Build America Act a couple of years ago, and I know that TLA was very involved in it, and there was a lot of support for that. It just was not one of the pieces that was included in the broad infrastructure piece. But there is a lot of renewed interest in library facilities. So we are watching that very, very carefully and very hopeful that at the very least, there is money available to local libraries to be able to at least do renovation work and get things up to code. We hear a lot now about we need separate children's areas. Well, yeah, but you have to have the space to do a separate children's area. And, you know, if the policy goal is this, and you have to have the facility structure to be able to make that possible. So those are some of the things that I see coming down the pike with regard to potential policy and some funding issues. At the state level, again, Texas is very lucky and has worked very hard to have a budget surplus. I think it was almost 30 billion last year, and which was just an extraordinary amount. And the budget surplus this year for the next session is looking about 20 billion, which is not 30 billion, but it's still a lot of money. So there is capacity in Austin, I think, to do a lot for local communities. So we're working to see how it's possible to present cases to support things that the state cares about, which is workforce development, education, building strong communities. There's a role in all of this. So I certainly encourage you that as you are working with your city and community partners to think along those lines, because there is very much a state interest in all of these things. And to the extent that libraries or any institutions can talk about those things meaningfully and show impact, it not only helps the narrative about libraries and what we do, but it is also, I think, the building of partnerships that is necessary to secure funds. And I will say blanketly that I truly believe as in 2024, as we go into the future, it's harder to find individual institutions. It's much easier to think about communities and partnerships and funding the outcomes. And we achieve those by being in partnership and in consultation with other groups. So that's also an area that I think I know that our agency is going to focus on. I mentioned part of our library development and networking group. We also do grants. We have been using federal funds for those grants, and we will continue to do that. As we go forward and continue to align our grant programs with our strategic priorities, which are education, economic development, open government, and community engagement, we want to focus our grant programs to help libraries meet those goals. So areas of workforce development and partnerships, critically important, and a lot fits under that. The state library does not have any oversight over any library in the state. We don't give you operational money, but we also don't have any administrative control. So we have to figure out how can we best support you, which is to perhaps provide the needs for that additional layer of programs and services. Well, for the smaller libraries, helping set a floor, a minimum, and see how we can help get to that. So for the next couple of years, certainly going in with the budget, we're focusing on our state budget with for the program for the smaller libraries through this grant program, the IT readiness basically for these support, keeping up technology, and then looking as we get additional information about the contours of digital literacy funding, how we're going to add to the current pot of money we have for broadband development, which will start being deployed next year, and then building on that. So that's funding wise what we've been working on, which has been fun and busy. We are also starting a pilot program on scholarships. We think that one of the great uses of federal dollars for libraries is to help bring more librarians into the state and keep them in the state and help train them. So we have started a pilot project with 3 library programs in the state to provide some assistance for tuition for for librarians of any type, with the hope that we will get them through their training and help them stay in the communities where they are at. So it doesn't matter if it's a brand spanking new librarian, someone who's already working, coming into this profession. One of the great fears over many of the concerns over the last few years have been people leaving the field. So we want to bring people back. So we're going to put our money to this and see how we can grow. But part of our interest is also on the community of librarians and information professionals. You can get the skills, but if you don't benefit from this kind of discussion, if you're not part of the broader community, it's very difficult to be able to situate yourself. So you can't have one without the other. So part of our scholarship pilot project, and this is the first year that we're deploying it, is to see what those students need, not just to succeed in their program, but also what it will take for them to be sure-footed in the field. And so that community is very important. So that's one of the projects that we have started. Another large area that, well, I think large activity that affects everyone is we are updating our public library accreditation criteria. So we've been working on this for over a year, and we had lots of sessions at TLA and met with lots of librarians and lots of ideas coming forward. So let me give you a timeline. We expect that the initial draft rules will go before our commission at the November 1 meeting. I'm waiting on a couple of things to finish it out. If we can get that out to folks a little sooner to start looking at it, but they will be posted for comment. So anybody can comment on them. And then the earliest they would come back to the commission would be in February, but we're probably going to do a longer comment period just because these are important to the library community. And this is going to straddle the holidays. So we just want to make sure people have enough time to look at them. As I said, we're still looking at a few things. But let me give you a preview of what's there. And again, this is based on a lot of discussions with our Library Services Advisory Board, which is comprised of a lot of your colleagues from across the state. We are updating a lot of the rules. Don't be shocked when you're going to see everything repealed. But that's only because we were making so many changes in format and so on. It was easier to repeal that and start again. We are updating the minimum amounts of what local libraries, local jurisdictions have to put in. It's not a shocking amount. I think it's about a 3% increase, a little bit more. So we were looking at the numbers to be no library. I mean, there's virtually no library that's not going to be. But it's important that we raise the number. We cannot say that libraries can operate on the same dollar amount on a minimum level that they did 10 years ago. It's just not, it's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. And I know the larger libraries make it more. It's a toss up because you always want to be aspirational, but you don't want to put it so far out of somebody's ability to achieve that those libraries stand to lose accreditation and not benefit from state resources. Accreditation is purely voluntary. No library in the state has to undergo it. We don't, as I said, we don't have authority over libraries. But of course, if you're not accredited, then you don't get access to TechShare. You don't get access to, you're not eligible for grant programs. So there's a lot of reason to be accredited. And you gain accreditation. It's a process that comes forward once you submit your annual report, because that accreditation is a product of the submission of those reports and meeting those minimum standards. So we are, as I said, we are updating those minimum requirements, and we are also collapsing. I think there were 5 groups, tiers of libraries, and you fall in there. We're collapsing the higher level just because it was broken down into a couple of different levels. So in some cases, it may be for the top libraries, the minimum may actually go down because we're collapsing it. So I mentioned that. So if there are ideas about that, the rulemaking is the time to put that forward. I honestly don't think any of the bigger libraries, I'm not sure that particularly sways at the larger library level, but it might, so we're putting it there, so that's why I'm looking at you, making sure that you are aware. So we're looking at those figures. There are a couple of other, updates. And it's just, most of this is clarifying how population assigned has been very difficult to understand. And so we are clarifying what we mean in terms of where we're getting those figures, the process of changing that. Yes, ma'am.
I do have a concern.
Yes.
Yes, it's happening. So we deal statewide, so I know there's that library pod. And if for a city that might have a healthier budget, it's okay, but the population served versus the actual population of that city, it's very disproportionate in my city. It's like 2-to-1. So that it really raises the MOE for the city, I think, in kind of an unfair way. Because yes, we serve as the county as a whole, but if it falls for the city to have twice the population served, because in my case, it is 25,000, and that's a population assignment to me. And we get the city, the population for the city isn't even 12.
Yeah.
So that is kind of disproportionate, so I do.
Well, and I would encourage you to look at the draft rules. I think we have done, some better clarity on some options. And so if there is a dispute, and by that I mean, when you say, look, this isn't fair. This is not what we can do. There are processes and other ways of looking at that calculation to see what is actually truly demonstrative of who you're serving and your responsibility. Because that I think is probably one of the greatest questions that we get about the service population. So there have been some updates to that. A couple of other smaller things, well, smaller to me, I'm not sure if you will, but I will mention it to you. There was something in there, and this had been for like 25 years, and I'm looking at my time, that a library's collection, 1% of a library's collection had to be copyright within the last 5 years. We're bumping that up to 5%. Don't know if that's going to give people heartburn, but honestly, in 2024, you're going to have to convince me that 5% of a copyright date within the last 5 years is not achievable. Especially when you can count online stuff. So anyway, and I'm highlighting this because I think those are, I just want you to know sort of where the big changes are so that can at least go to those things and watch for them. What else?
I'm sorry, but it also helps in that when we have a city manager, there's, why do you need more money, or why do you need money? Because you have a lot of books, but we're gonna need to be updated.
Well, and it's,
You have a better.
well, it is. I mean,
Because it's big.
well, it does, and it's not a huge number because again, I know a lot of, we all know collections. There's a lot of legacy collections, but if they're, especially in a time when there's a lot of pressure to review collections and update and read collections, there's got to be at least some metric to say we have to have money. We have to have money. This is what we're doing, and the minimum accreditation criteria are truly intended to be the floor. This is not intended to say this is the top end and nobody else. It is with great hope that everybody does a whole lot more. But it is an important statement of at least we're going forward. And again, there were many discussions with particularly some of the smaller libraries that were very concerned about their ability to be able to continue to benefit from accreditation. We have also added, clarifying that when we're talking about items for count, that things like educational kits, instruments are part of that count. That had not been before, but I heard from library directors saying, look, we've spent money buying musical instruments so that people can check them out and learn. We have spent money on educational kits. And so we're, making it possible to meet counts. Because today, a learning resource is a whole lot of different things. So, look for those. We will have, the normal comment period is about 30 days. So we're going to do at least 45 days to afford as much time as we possibly can, knowing all of this is crossing the session, and things kind of go, woo! So we're, looking at that.
Let me ask you, make sure I heard correctly. You did say that digital assets would be included to help, bolster that, get to that $2 amount.
Yeah, if you've got ebooks and so on, yes. Okay. All right. I don't see, I don't have the glasses on, so I'm looking at my notes. What am I? So lots happening, but truly, and I know PLA is very much up to speed on the commission meetings and have been asking me, so when are those going forward? When do we get a draft? We need to share. So you've got good eyes on all this for you. Overall, the agency is really focusing on what I call the 4 pillars, and I mentioned them earlier, which is education, economic opportunity, open government, and community and civic engagement. These are not revolutionary. We did not invent the wheel with these things. These are it's very common parlance in our field, and it's been that way for a very long time. So it's not new in that way, but it's new in that we're not talking about circulation counts. We're not talking about these things. I think it's very important that as we look at what we do as an agency, we're talking in a way that makes sense to people outside the agency. They're not looking at the same metrics that we do, and they don't need to. What they care about is, are you helping people find jobs? Are you helping small businesses get established? Are you helping people get their GEDs? And that's what they care about, and that's how we need to speak. And as we move forward with our strategic plan, which was built on these principles, and as we go forward and look at our grant programs, our CE, we're going to increasingly move in this speak, because that's going to make it easier for us to show what we're doing. And frankly, as we go forward, we're going to ask more accountability from all of our partners. I need you. We are really great at knowing the impact we have, not so much on showing the impact, because there are a lot of privacy issues with patrons and so on. We're in a different world. I haven't figured this out, but anybody has figured it out. But we should be able to do more tracking of the success that we have, to be able to say X many people got jobs using our services, and that's going to require us to go back and ask, did you get a job? I'm not trying to scare anybody. I haven't figured it out. And it's going to be a work in progress, but we need to show specific numbers. And I mentioned this because as I was preparing for some of the hearings that I have discussions I have had recently, I was struck by a report from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. They sponsored a huge report on libraries' impact on reading and reading success. We know we do it. We know we do. That report was striking in that it revealed how little rigor there is in studies about library work. I mean, we know we do it, but we don't show how we do it well. And for the education hearing that Wendy mentioned, I was there talking about House Bill 900. Well, the agencies will roll in developing the collection development standards. And glad we did that. Done. But it's wonderful to listen to the Commissioner of Education talk about their metrics for education. Now, I know we're not regulatory, you're not regulatory, but you want to see how to present something and make a case for funding. It's eye-opening. And we need to have, if not that level, very close to it. And that's a whole different mindset for us. It is a whole different mindset. But on the one hand, it's very difficult to say we impact reading when we don't have that data. We have a lot of anecdotal information, and that's wonderful. Stories are great, but they're only a piece of it. And so as I was reading that IMLS study about reading, and it was actually scoring the level of vigor of the studies, it was quite something. You look like you want to say something.
No, I'm just so supportive of what you're saying because it's what I'm facing with my city council right now, our new city manager.
Yeah.
There's a lot of challenge, I think, coming for me and my staff, and just prove it, you know.
Show it.
Yeah, yeah. You say that you do all of these things, you support these things, but we want to see the data. And that's difficult, especially when they won't give us enough staff to just run the way we need to run, and do more. So it's just where we are right now in the end. So I thank you. I appreciate everything you're saying.
Well, and it's difficult. I mean, because it's not anything that one of us, it's a huge new infrastructure for doing our work. It's not lost on me, but we're never going to start if we don't start. And Edward, I know we all do stuff. Yes.
So what I would recommend is look at your municipality that you work with. Every municipality has some type of data structure that, or department that does that type of work. How can you leverage that relationship with partners? Well, if you don't have to develop that partnership, say, I know you're looking at data, you're in data analysis business. How can you help me to understand what we need to do in order to measure our outcomes, in order to connect our performance to our budget? And so if we're talking about, let's say workforce development, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to ask a person to fill out a survey. Say, did you have a job? Post, do you have a job now? Or do you have the skills to do this certain thing? Post, do you have the skills now to do this certain thing? We talk about, the Privacy Act and the people, maintaining their privacy in public library settings. But do think that we have to be able to show this type of impact in order for us to have continued value in the community. Because if you can't relate the work to the money, then the people who make decisions of managing your budget, they're just like, why should I give you more money? I don't, the feel good times of libraries, they're dated. We now have to get into this whole mentality of thinking about how the government is using data. Everyone is using data. How do we get, if we don't have the capacity, how do we get our municipality staff to help us do this work in order to do this analysis that we need in order to do our true impact? And it's okay to say, well, we don't have the capacity to do it, I don't have staff, but I'm asking my government, my local government to help me do this work in order to show the impact of the dollar that you're spending or investing in the libraries.
Thank you. And again, it's not to scare anybody. I mean, we've all known this for a while. I just think we're at a moment in time where we're being, the narrative has changed. And so there's a lot less willingness to accept however much it is true. And I do believe it. Absolutely, that libraries do great things and we help reading, but it's not taken on face value as much as it was before. And we do live in a time of data. And like I said, I'm not coming to you with answers. I'm saying this is what I'm seeing. And as we're thinking about it at the state library, how we can be supportive, how we can build our programs to support you all, to help you all, to require you all, to get us all sort of moving forward. And it's probably going to be little baby steps. You don't have to tackle the whole thing right now. If it's one simple survey or just thinking about it with your team or your board or a couple of people in your community that do this kind of work, it's what is the first step you can take? Because it was really, I was looking for, give me the statistic, give me the information that I can show to say, bam, reading scores improved this much because of. Yeah, I'm a veteran of the school library reading studies and so on. And even those, they had scientific value, but they were lots of factors that I show me in the community study, the summer reading programs. And it's eye-opening to see that we, at the national level, they recognize the lack of that kind of information. So I say that to you in the sense that this is something that I'm looking, that as the agency moves forward, I think this is one of the areas that I feel it's important for the agency to investigate and convince some dollars to figure out these kinds of things. It's the research, it's having meaningful deploying going forward. We did a digital literacy study a couple of years ago as we were preparing for the broadband grant, and that was very useful. It was a good starting point. But I don't want to ask you all, how are you doing anymore? I mean, I do care, but it's more important for us to ask the community, what do you want? And it's not necessarily having you ask your communities because you're involved with the people who already love you. It's asking what the broad community needs. And so I think part of this whole being focused outward, having those lines of communication, I mean, there's work, and this is where you lean into it. This is the hard work of it. It's not just saying we're open to the community. It's saying we're going to go out to the community and find out what they want, not giving them a list of the 5 things that we think that they need and which do you like best. So there's a lot of work we need to do on that front, but I have no doubt, absolutely none, that whatever way we go forward, we're going to show the impact of libraries. We just do too much great work. I know this. We all know this. What we don't have is sort of the means to show it. So enough on my soapbox. I'm warming to that topic, and I am running out of time. So, that's something that I'm thinking about. And it may be like, let's get through the session, and it may be I will be sort of an ad hoc task force on library state metrics and what we're doing. We're going to get some energy behind this. And the one thing about libraries is we don't go away. We will last, but we're going to figure this out. This is a whole new different operational model. And this is true in terms of library education, being more multidisciplinary, bringing in people who are from outside the profession to help work on libraries. I love libraries. I'm a librarian. I believe in our work and I believe in the process for our education. But we have room for other expertise. And we need to welcome that because it's going to make it stronger. So those are just some of the things I'm thinking about. We've got lots to deal with now, lots coming up in the session. Some small bills and things that I certainly probably refiling a lot of the things you saw last session. We will monitor and we will work, but I have not heard anybody tell me, libraries we're in good shape. And on the happy note, when I was talking about our facilities, we got $210 million for a new facility for some of our work for archives and for records management. You don't invest $210 million in something. When I say, and when I speak for the agency, I don't speak just for the agency because we are with you all. When people think about TSLAC, they think about libraries in general. So, we are walking the same path. So take comfort in that. Take comfort in the extraordinary work that you do, your resilience amidst everything, the trials the tribulations that everybody has, and that you wear lightly. Enjoy each other. We are here. Thank you. And I cannot tell you sufficiently how much I appreciate all the support that you give to the agency, to our programs, that the association has to us, and that you give it to each other. Because there isn't a crisis, I think, that together that you all don't solve, that you all don't bolster each other. And we are, and I'm gonna be bold. We are in good times. We are coming out of some difficult times, but we are in good times. We are going to go, we are at the cusp of fundamental changes in how information is deployed to our communities, and we have skill set and passion to do it. So bravo, on to better things. Thank you all. Oh, I didn't even ask if you had questions. I got some of them. No.
Gloria, could you talk a little bit about the formerly simply EHS is now Boundless program? Is that going to stick around? Hopefully, and any other changes? It's been great.
Yes. Well, we struggled a little bit with the future of that program, not quite knowing what if it was really doing what it needed to. I think it's going well. We had to make some decisions with regard to how it was deployed, since it was a state program going to the library communities and the smaller communities. But I'm hearing a lot better usage of the program, and I think we are finally got an administrative platform for it that is going to hold it over time. So I think that one is in good shape. Thank you, question. Any questions? Let me do the show first and then I'll come back to you.
So Gloria, I was just curious if you said that the example of the one that is appointed to the commission. You mentioned the governor appointed, but
Yes. Oh, well, and I'm glad you asked because there are a couple of terms that have expired, whether they will be reappointed or not, I don't know. So this is the process. There is an appointments office in the governor's office. So anybody who's interested can go in and fill out that form and say, I'm interested. These are my credentials. This is what I want to do. You can list the commissions and boards that you're interested in. Ultimately, whoever is considered will need to have a letter of support from their state senator. And then that gets ferreted over to as part of the package. The governor's office will certainly ask for that because all of the commission members are appointed by the Senate. And of course, they will do a check on the individuals and all of those kinds of things. But really, if you or you have someone who you think would be great on the commission, please encourage them. We would love to see so many people clamoring to be on the State Library and Archives Commission because it's the best thing ever. And it's certainly better to have people who are knowledgeable about the field and care about the field applying to be that. We had great luck with folks who did not really have much to do. We were a choice and they were appointed there and they learned very quickly, but it would be wonderful to have more folks do that. Yes.
what's the name of the first program? Simply E.
Yes.
And then what was the second question? And could we repeat questions? It's just hard to hear online.
Okay. Oh, the second question, I guess it was Michelle's question, was what is the process to have someone serve on the State Library and Archives Commission? How do they get nominated for that? And then one other question.
I'm very interested, given a lot of information here from records librarians, very good information there. I would also like information for your low visibility and assisting, whatever updates you'd like to share. I think there's a lot that they do a lot of good work, and I would like to promote that. I know if I could talk.
Oh, wow, that's a great question. This is about our services for people with visual disability and reading standard and control. This is our talking book program that we run out of two facilities. One is through the State Library, our main building where we have our reader services and our volunteer recording studio. And then we have a circulation in our shopping facility. So this program provides reading material to anyone who is eligible for the program. These are people, anyone who cannot read a standard book. And the way you get certified or eligible for the program is easier than a librarian can certify someone. You can get a doctor to certify. We are also open for students who have dyslexia. So we have a growing number of young people who are part of the program. And so we provide reading material. We will actually mail you free large print books, braille books, a reader, which will read digital flash drives. And we also have an app called the BARD app. So you could actually just go on the app and pick out your audiobooks and have them delivered that way. And it is, we have a great team of readers consultants who will work with any patron if they don't know what they want to read. Just readers advisory basically, but also just technical support. We're also doing duplication on demand. So if you are getting a cartridge, you can say, these are the books that we want. We will duplicate all of those on a drive and get that drive to you. Everything is absolutely free. We serve only a small amount of the eligible population. So we are actually trying to work with public libraries throughout the state to get information about the program. So if you are interested, please let me know. Our director of the Talking Book Program, Ann Minner, who was formerly with Austin Public Library, and I stole her away from Roosevelt, but who's very good humored about it, and is on a mission actually to be able to reach more libraries because you all are the point of contact for a lot of folks who may not know about the program who are specifically asking about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
At this time, I wanted to, talk to you all about, the Tocker Foundation a little bit. They were not able to be with us today, and we deeply, deeply regretted them not being able to be with us. But, I want to, give you some information about their conference. And, they're going to be having a small library conference. Okay, they just recently, they're still trying to get some of their imaging work out, but Karen Gerstenhaber was kind enough to share this information with us. They're very excited about this and looking to promote it. This is actually designed for small libraries, and they've done a little piece here, and at the end, I will share this with you on the website so that you will be able to see this. It's a PDF, and we will make it where it's printable for you from our website. So what they're saying here is this is going to be free of charge. That's a wonderful thing. Advanced registration is required. This is Tuesday, April the 1st, 9:30 to 2 p.m. They are talking about hearing fresh ideas for funding your library, understanding broadband funding opportunities that are coming down through TSLAC. Gloria mentioned some of this. Honing your message of advocacy, that's going to be incredibly important. Gathering with your peers, the whole networking concept that Gloria was also was kind of a touchstone on this topic of how important it is for us to be able to meet with each other, because we just can't continue to exist in a vacuum, because so many libraries don't have peer comparison support. They don't have they don't have access to standards. They're very needed. So this and you know the actual therapy of being able to communicate to people what your community problems are. This is very therapeutic for these people, and it often gets very overlooked by city budgets. I think that's kind of a minimization. You also get the opportunity to learn about Small Community Libraries Roundtable, and that's a very active group. It's a very important group, and we're going to be working with Deborah Hanson, who just won the Small Libraries Community Roundtable Award this last year, and we're going to be doing a training actually over in Plan. And the topic will be about how they were able to establish more funding and more support within their own community. And they went from having very little political acumen and support into actually being able to grow their foundation base to support getting the new funding for a very good building that is coming along the way. Some of it will be renovation, but some of it will also be growth opportunity. So that you can also stay for a guided tour of the exhibit hall just for attendees. And they are including a light breakfast. And this will be funded by the Tocker Foundation. They're collaborating with Texas Rural Funders for this broadband piece. TSLAC is working with them, and TLA and Small Community Libraries SLRC. So we wanted to tell you about that because they're they're sweet neighbors, and they do lots and lots and lots for Plan. They are our most wonderful supporters. They're very good people as well as supporters. The thing that I wanted to do now, just before lunch, is I want to introduce you to my staff. I want to tell you just a little bit about where we are in Plan, and then I'll transition later after lunch and after Edward speaks, and we'll talk with a little bit more density about where Plan is. But I just want to give you a little bit about the environment that I started in. I started in late September this last year, and we were going through a huge transition. And I was coming in when Eric Lashley was leaving, and we had Dana in charge as interim at the time, and she helped us greatly through a very difficult time with a very small staff. And when I came on, I was hired in September. I was hired in late September. And my husband I'm gonna have trouble talking about this. My husband has had cancer for 4 years, and he was doing quite well. And whenever the board decided to hire me, he got sick. And so the first 3 months of my job, I spent between Weatherford and Dallas, going back and forth to the hospital and Austin. So it was a very difficult year trying to do all of this and learn about the business of nonprofits at the same time, because it is a very different animal that it is operating in a municipality atmosphere. It's incredibly different. And the business of operating a nonprofit is rigorous business. So Louanne had a lot of learning to do, and at a time that it was very difficult to do all of this. And so within that context, I would say we have had an incredible year of transition in this organization. My husband passed away in December, and so my board has kept me whole through all of this. They have just been able to sustain me in a very business and professional way that I'm very much appreciated. And so we've had a lot of professional transition at this point in time. And so this has been this has been a transition growth year for Plan. Eric did a whole lot to help us grow into a larger version of ourselves in order to provide more training, specifically to help allocate funding for very practical, deeply rural areas. And we've been able to execute on those grants that he's helped make for us. So he helped establish an environment that helped us to grow into some of the very successful things that we have going on right now. And I'm going to be talking to you about that. Dana's going to talk to you about our rescue plan, and she's going to get quite deeply into that. And you're going to see a lot of what you're going to get a visual image, at least some idea of what it is that these monies go towards and how crucial and how important those things actually are. So I want to commend my staff. I want to bring them up here, and I want you to meet them, because I am so proud of the quality of staff that you all have working for you. So, Dana. This is my assistant director, and Dana is in charge right now. I trust her greatly with our consulting leg. Do you want to share this, Peggy? Because I don't want to share unless you want me to.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
We had talked. Peggy has just been a recipient. We are working with Peggy over at Leander. They have several issues that are fairly ingrained, and she kind of touched on some of that, and I got a little more perspective, and I was so glad that we put in some things in your document that we actually did. We had worked with her. Dana worked extensively on on different types of survey tools to get us to that point. Our analysis tools were wonderful. We've done wonderful work so far in our consulting leg of this organization. And a lot of that is attributable to the critical thinking skills, the knowledge and the access to our tools, and using all the variety of tools and using our community conversations and putting all that information to work for us. And we're quite proud of what's been going on in terms of consulting. And Peggy is, I'm hoping that she seems to be very pleased with her documents so far. And we are quite pleased with this document. So what I want to tell you is, this is my person who I'm taking care of a nonprofit, and she's helping grow your communities right now. So I wanted to tell you I'm very happy with the work that we're getting done here, and I'm very happy with Dana's work.
Thank you, Louanne, and I really do enjoy the connection piece.
Thank you. Jeffrey, you want to come up here? This is our new guy. This is Jeffrey Freeman. Jeffrey came to us. His wife is a librarian. She tells me she doesn't want anyone to know where she is. So we find her today. But he has been incredible in joining us. I'm so happy with him. He helps us with all things technical. He helps me greatly because he has an administrative assistant's past in librarianship. And we also have the added advantage of him having a security pass. He was a police officer. So we're very happy to have Jeffrey on staff with us. And I have two very type B personalities when Louanne occasionally becomes type A. So I'm very happy to have them. Sarah, come up, please. I think many of you know Sarah Pepin. Sarah has helped us for how long, Sarah? A year and a half?
About a year and a half.
Yeah, she's been on staff for a year and a half. And her title is program assistant. She works with us through another grant coordination piece. And she has helped us source the professional trainings that we have given you all. She's helped communicate with the outreach and the legwork and the setup for those things. And she has also helped with navigating the technology just today, the way that things are being done. She is the person who is the liaison for our training leg. And she really does other things for me. And I'll kindly call her and say, "Oh, Sarah, you're so good with art. Please do this art piece for me." And she is always very happy to accommodate me. So I'm very proud of the staff. You have a staff that goes above and beyond for you. And I want you to know how much they go above and beyond for you. And I go above and beyond for them because they do. All right.